Welcome to Study Basics, day 1 of 5. So we're narrowing down our definition of study as the process of taking in information to repeat for evaluation. Or more simply, getting info to spit it out to get a grade. So that's what we're going to focus on here in Study Basics. Get info, spit it out, get a grade. This just being a basic course, we're going to focus on getting the info, and more narrowly, getting the info to get a good grade. When we're talking about you developing your study skills, what's stopping a lot of students is this idea that there's a right way to study. This is presented to students when they first study, like go find a nice quiet spot. But a lot of students, they do just fine not in a nice quiet spot. And actually that might hurt some students. Being in a nice quiet spot keeps them from soaking in information. So let's get into that. The school system addresses a general audience, so they throw out a lot of information and it's up to you to get it. It's up to you with your style, with the way you learn, with the way you get information to get that information. Let's look at this like a car. If a car wants to run in less time with less effort and get better results, it can't do that in a factory. It has to be customized. Each car is different, like each student is different. So you have to take a look. What are the strengths right now? What are the weaknesses right now? And then tweak according to that. Tweak to the uniqueness. And that's what you're doing here. In the factory, you're studying for points. In school, you're studying to get that grade. Right now, you're studying for yourself. You're studying to develop yourself. Maybe you want your study skills to be that much better so you can get more points faster and easier. But the fact is, right now, you're learning for yourself. You're going through Study Basics to benefit yourself right now. So is there a right way to study? Well, there's a right way for you to study. Or more specifically, there's a more efficient way for you to study, unlike any other student. And that takes some customization, so let's do that right now. Ask yourself, how do you best get information? Some students, they need to see the information to get it. Some students, they have to hear it to really have it soak in. Some students, they have to do something with it. They have to play with it in their hands. Some students, they need to share with others. They need to talk about it. They need to have a conversation. Some students, they need to isolate themselves and really go in and play around with it. Maybe get a notebook and start sketching things. Ask questions about it. And what we're talking about here is, how do you best play around with information? How do you best get the information by using it in your own style, in your own way? There's a rhythm to learning, and some students, they best study in the daytime, some in the afternoon, some in the evening. But not only that, but there's a rhythm as you're studying. There's a rhythm as far as keeping pace. And some students use music to do that with them, to keep that rhythm while they're learning. And while you're learning, how much do you categorize what you're learning? How much do you put them in different sections? Okay, here's the studying I'm doing for points. This goes in one category. Here's the studying I'm doing for myself. This is another category. Here's how I best study in one category. Here's how I don't study that well in another category. And compare and contrast. Now, as you can see here, if you ask a student, go find a nice quiet spot to study, and they're a person who needs to share the information, who needs to have a conversation to let the information really soak in, then you're hurting that student. If you're telling a student to find a nice quiet spot, and maybe they haven't developed that rhythm within but are using an MP3 player to keep them moving and focused, well, you're hurting that student. Go sit in a nice quiet spot. Well, they're lost in that nice quiet spot. They don't have that rhythm that they're used to. And again, it may just be a crutch, but it moves them throughout their study. It keeps them focused. So when studying or working on a project, what are the best ways you gather and store information for a test? What are the best ways you get the info so you could ace or pass the exam? More than likely, you've had years of experience, so just go back and then think about the tests that you've aced. Think about the subjects that you just fly through. How do you already do that? And then ask yourself, when studying or working on a project, what are the worst ways you gather and store information? Take a look at the tests that you haven't done so well on. What happened there? And now this gives you some contrast. This gives you something to compare. Okay, I know this works for me. Okay, I know this doesn't work for me. So take a few moments and focus on your own experience. You may be surprised by the knowledge and wisdom you already have. This was Study Basics, day 1 of 5. Today we just defined study and also took a self-inventory, taking a deep look at ourselves and what already works for us. Tomorrow we'll be taking a look at step 1 of Study Basics, so stay tuned. By the way, I'd like to find out more about you. After this video, wait a few seconds and then a link will appear and then click Tell Me More About You. Thanks. This is Mr. A. I'll see you tomorrow.